undertaken in opening up the digital economy for Nigerian players as well as foreign players. To my left here is our treasured Director General of the National Information Technology Development Agency, who actually implements all the policies and creates an enabling environment. We're in an unprecedented era of IT, IoT, ICT enablement in Nigeria, where investors can come in, and there's actually, for the first time in many years, under the leadership of the gentleman I mentioned, we have a clear direction.
And actually, speaking of that, I'd just like to bring in the Director General himself, because what's really interesting is we have this sense of almost you prophesy something is coming. In 2019, you start the IoT, but then Jawad mentioned the challenges that even though there's more demand, there may not be more revenue. So, Director General, can you tell us what are the things that your agency is doing to kind of support, forward-thinking, forward-looking activities in this sector amongst big businesses and smaller ones, for example, that Eric looks at?
Thank you very much. I got a really fascinating insight from Eric's presentation, where he talked about the African potentials in terms of size and population.
Would you be able to speak just a little bit into the mic, because I think we're not hearing you very well.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Is it better?
Okay, thank you very much. I got a fascinating insight from Eric's presentation on the African size and potentials to capture value from the digital economy. That's really a potential competitive advantage Africa has, and as an agency mandated to regulate the government digital economy, we have been working on different policies and strategy to strengthen the ecosystem. Because when you talk about digital economy, it is about an ecosystem, creating an ecosystem. If you look at it globally, the digital economy is not evenly distributed. Based on statistic research, there are about 1,200 unicorn companies in the world. Out of it, 256 are from the United States of America and 204 from China. Then the third country is UK, which has about 24 unicorn companies, only followed by India. And in Africa, we have only 3 unicorn companies, 2 from South Africa and 1 from Nigeria. So we looked at what is the reason behind that clusters around the world. Then based on our finding, it is about an ecosystem. So what we are doing is creating and enabling policies that can help establish that ecosystem in the country. So we are working on a program, an initiative with MIT, they call it MIT RIP, Regional Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program, which is a global capstone initiative that helps the region identify its innovation capacity and entrepreneurial capacity, and also help the region craft a strategy on how to harness that capacity and capability. So we have different policies. We are working on a digital innovation and entrepreneurship policy. We are working on implementing the digital economy policy, and we are coming up with different initiatives in creating infrastructure. Basically, to strengthen your innovation and entrepreneurial capability, you need to invest in 3 key sectors. Firstly, the human capital. So we do a lot in terms of human capital investment. This year alone, we trained more than 10,000 Nigerians on different IT and digital skills and capabilities. Then secondly is about infrastructure. You need to have the infrastructure. The government has launched the National Broadband Plan early this year in March, and implementation is ongoing. And also, like in my agency, we are creating infrastructure to bridge the digital gap Like just recently we commissioned our Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics, which is equipped with state-of-the-art facilities such as the Makerspace Fab Lab infrastructure, whereby startups can come and develop a prototype, turn their ideas into products and services. And also we have an innovation labs and so on, which is open to corporate. We already identified key stakeholders that need to play in that space, and we have the universities, we have the corporate organizations, we have the entrepreneurs, we have risk capital, and we have government as enabler in terms of policy and other intervention in infrastructure.
I actually, at this point, I just want to bring in Jawad, because there's a lot going on, so many different initiatives, so many things accelerating. Are these the type of things that your members are asking for? Are these the types of things that you're hearing, that they're crying out, please governments, give us more?
Indeed, indeed. And if you look at Africa and the Arab world, there are many similarities. For example, in my region, the Middle East and North Africa, predominantly the Arab world, and also in my colleagues' regions of Saharan Africa, you have a situation where the country mix is composed of least developed markets, low-income markets, middle-income markets, and also developed markets. So it's a whole spectrum of very poor, sometimes plagued with civil wars and unrest, to actually quite relatively wealthy and very stable and with governance in place. So if you look at this landscape, every problem will need a specific solution with a lot of cooperation between the private sector and the public sector. For example, if you look at the mobile industry, we have a coverage map. We have a situation where almost well over 1 billion people are not sufficiently covered by a good mobile broadband network. The solutions towards that include policies on spectrum, universal access, how to deal with advancing investments to increase the coverage. And then we also have many cases of usage gap where there are good networks available, such as the example of having well over 5 billion mobile users, but less than 3 billion using mobile internet. And then that's the usage gap. And the usage gap is probably not related to lack of the availability of the service, but rather on issues on affordability or digital literacy or how to use the services. And these require different policies. So it's never a one-size-fits-all. It's basically looking at the intricacies of every market and every sub-region of that market, of that country, and looking at how to solve the problems of coverage gaps and usage gaps, because it's almost empirically proven that if people get access to the internet, if people are able to use the internet, more often than not, it helps them improve their lives, it helps the economies be more efficient, and therefore we all have an interest in expanding the internet usage amongst the population.
No, agreed, but I think, some of the audience are probably wondering about the challenges and risks, because we've painted a very rosy, exciting, positive picture, but those on the ground know that the reality is somewhat different. So to you, Eric, I want to say, you've highlighted in your presentation earlier so many opportunities, the fact that mobile, internet, broadband connection is naming lots, but as part of the future of work, we know that anyone, anywhere, can do work from anywhere as well. But what are we doing to make sure that it's the African youth that win that work? Because how do we know that work can be done anywhere? How can we know that it's not going to go to Asian youth or Latin American youth? What can be done to make sure that the African youth is ready to compete in this more aggressive future of work?
So I think one of the things that has happened in Africa in the last 2 decades is a powerful paradigm shift. When I was in school, the in thing was you go to school outside for your tertiary education and you don't have that. Today, the Africa's millennials don't think like that. Think about the fact that they can build a business here. They can school in Africa, they can get education there, and they can build their whole life in Africa. And that's a very powerful paradigm shift, right? And I think that paradigm is the nexus of what's happening. The fact that African youths now believe in themselves and believe in their continent and believe that they can make it on the continent is very powerful. So that's number one. Number two is that I think this is also because they see the opportunity that technology gives them. because they look at other youth, Mark Zuckerberg with the youth when he started Facebook, college. Larry Page were youth when he started. So they told themselves, these guys can do it, we can do it also. But you see, the interesting thing is that they do not consider the context of the environment. Oh, Larry Page and Zuckerberg were in a much better environment, so they can do it there. But look at the challenges that African youth face, and they can even imagine to build something out of it. So for me, that's very, very powerful. And so what we need to do now is a point that the Honorable DJ mentioned, that we need to now enhance the ecosystem to prop up this youth, right? So they have as the Americans would say, they have their head screwed on properly, right? Now we have to create the environment for them to exercise that. And that includes making sure that the four main actors in the ecosystem play their part. So there's a role that government has to play, creating a legal environment, investing in the infrastructure, what IoT Africa is doing, building the networks that go to underserved areas, right? The things that you are doing, so we need the government and the government sector to create that enabling environment. Then you need civil society to actually start consuming what we produce in Africa. And this is what everybody in this room is a part of it. We as Africans must take pride in consuming what is made in Africa. We must start wearing what we make in Africa. It may not be the best, but we got to wear it and give those who make it feedback. Because if we don't consume what we produce, so the market that I talk about, if the middle class that is emerging does not consume what we produce, we will not make it. So there needs to be that second paradigm shift from a consumption mindset that we need to start consuming whatever we produce. It may not be the best from the beginning, but you need to consume it and give feedback. And as you do it and give feedback, we'll make it better, right? So that's a very important role that the civil society has. And then there's research and academia. Research and academia need to provide the skill set that industry needs. And this is one big disconnect. So if you take Nigeria, for example, we have some of the best universities. I mean, some of the best PhDs in the world come from Nigeria. But they are not trained in what Nigeria needs now. So I'm not criticizing the academia, I'm saying that they need to fine-tune their curriculum to address industry needs. So for example, the Nigerian university needs to be asking him, what engineer do you need to build your network? The university needs to start building engineers for you. The university needs to come to me, Eric, what kind of skill set do we need in these entrepreneurs? We need machine learning experts. We need IoT experts. We need data scientists. And then they start building their curriculum based on what industry needs. So the time has gone when you just do your curriculum because you have to produce people. You need to now have a collaborative mindset. We need to produce 10,000 data scientists in the next 5 years. The agenda then says by NITDA. Then the universities go and say, okay, you need to produce 5,000, 2,000, So we need to do that. That collaborative effort, I think that's what we were talking about. We need to build that ecosystem where we are following a strategic agenda. Yeah. And obviously, the private sector will then be driving the economics, and making this system.
Thank you. That's very good answer. I think we can. So there are two other big areas that I want to look at in the last couple of minutes that we have. I think what I'll do is I'll jump, across the panel. So the first one, as you said, the youth has their heads screwed on. So we're now starting to think about data privacy, secure and safe environments on the systems that we're using on the networks. So I want to first of all come to you, Lare, to talk to us a little bit about how companies like yours are cognizant of this new trend around data security, data privacy, cyber security as well. But then I also want to talk about the environmental impacts of this sector, because we know that data centers, with their always-on servers, consume a huge amount of dirty energy, so electricity that's been produced by fossil fuels. And apparently, global data centers around the world produce as much carbon as the global airline industry, pre-pandemic, of course, because they're not flying that much. So again, I'd be interested to hear from you, Jawad, exactly what your industry is doing to become green and prevent climate emergency. So first to you, Lare, on private security, cyber security, and then to you, Jawad, on environmental.
Thank you, Dara. On the security front, I think if you look at an ecosystem, you look at what comes in, what does it do when it's in there, and what comes out. So obviously, the best approach for cybersecurity, for security of IT infrastructure, will be to take care of what comes in.
Basic, good in, garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out, great stuff in, hopefully great stuff out, because the processing is significant. With the Nigerian Data Protection NDPR protection regulation, you have systems that are coming into place in Nigeria now, where data is processed in the correct way, and people are aware of the need for security. In terms of cybersecurity, I think in Nigeria today you have a large crop of young people who have taken on that role very seriously. Now, data security is not one of my areas of specialization. Building businesses is. Training people is. I'll just touch very briefly on that. When a Nigerian, when a graduate comes out of university in Nigeria today, the universities have actually done a great job. All it takes is an extra 3 months of industry training to convert these graduates into very useful members of the IT world. And we've done that. 6 weeks bootcamp and 6 weeks mentorship, coaching and internship, and you have people that are very useful to enter into industry. And part of the training is in being aware of security. So you bring people who are aware that they need to pay specific attention to this. May I welcome our Honorable Minister, Dr. Osiakwan.
Thank you for joining us. And I think at this point I'd also like to give a bit of a shout out and commendation to the Honourable Director General, because within their agency's sort of manifesto or sort of remit, they talk about moral governance. And I think the security aspect falls within that. And I think creating the space for that thinking enables a more secure environment. So I'll just jump to Jawad to finish us off on the environmental. How do we stop using so much bad energy?
Absolutely. Well, the mobile industry, when we looked at the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, we realized that the mobile industry has an active role, an important role in every single one of them. So we're fully committed to that, including, of course, action on climate. And I'm very pleased to note that the industry is committed to net zero emissions by 2050.
Brilliant.
Some of our members are even more ambitious by 2030. And the nice thing is the development of renewable technology and clean technology and the fast development and the much lower cost in it is making it good business sense to move towards renewable energy and towards clean energy. For example, in areas where there isn't a reliable supply of electricity, it used to be that we had to rely on diesel generators, but now with solar renewable and wind renewable and the advances and the much lower cost in the storage infrastructure, it actually makes more business sense to invest in these setups. So it's a win-win situation where we're reducing our carbon footprint and also saving money, which translates into lower cost for the consumers. So it's going in the right direction.
And I like this message, given that we are on the green stage after all, so we should be ending on a green note. Very quickly, Eric, I think you just wanted to come in on something.
Yes, I just want to conclude by saying that this whole thing, there's one fundamental driver, which is the narrative. The world works on narrative. And so I want to single out my brother Segun Oruame, the CEO of ITX. I've known this brother for 20 years. 20 years he's been consistently writing positive stories about technology and about Africa. And I think that is very important, that is somebody who's dedicated his life to writing about the positive development. Because you see, for all of us that woke up today, whatever you saw on your phone by Twitter, on your screen by CNN, that is the narrative that drives it. So I want us all to give a round of applause to Segun Oruame, who's also behind this event. Segun, thank you very much.
Okay, that's a really wonderful note to end on. I want to say a huge thank you again to our esteemed panelists. I think we've got a lot out. We've covered a lot in about 30 minutes or so. And a huge thank you to the audience for your attention. I think you've been awake, although I can't see with the mask. But now we will kind of hand back over to Dave. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Well done, everyone. Give it up, boss! Well done, brilliant. Well, that's if you're going to say, sorry. If you'd like to, that'd be fantastic, thank you. Excellent.